This video is sponsored by Hobbynut Models. Check the link in the description below for more details. Hey, I'm John. Welcome to Mr. G's Workbench. Time for a new build review. Today we're going to take a look at Magic Factory's A-4M and 1/48 scale. The kit's kindly been provided by my channel sponsor, Mark, over at Hobbynut Models. Be sure to check out Hobbynut Models if you're looking for this kit or any kit actually and accessories. Mark has a big selection, and if he doesn't have what you're looking for, if you contact him, I'm sure he can help you out. Be sure to take a look at the affiliate link down in the details below. Let's Mark know that you found his website through the channel. With that being said, welcome. If this is your first time here, thanks for stopping in. If you're a return visitor, thanks for coming back. And if you're a subscriber, even better. Thank you for your support of the channel by hitting the subscribe button. Costs you nothing, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you to the over 5,400 people who've chosen to support the channel in such a way. And thank you very much to my channel member family whose names are scrolling up the screen right now. Thank you, folks, for your additional level of support for the channel. If you're at all interested in becoming a channel member, hit the join button down below, and it'll take you to a link, give you a short introductory video, explain the program, and if you choose to opt in, it's $1.99 US a month. It's very much appreciated, as I said. So all that out of the way, we're going to jump in on the A-4M. After we build it, we'll come back and we'll discuss the good and the bad, and you can decide for yourself whether or not it's a kit that you want to build. So let's go take a look. All right, let's jump into the instruction sheet really quick. Before you start your build, make sure you go through and pick all the options you're going to pick. Early or late, flaps up, flaps down, etc. We'll discuss this more later on in the video. Let me start out by saying, out of the box, the kit cockpit looks terrific. If you just take your time, paint it. You can even apply the kit decals over the molded in instruments, and it'll look great. This ejection seat is well detailed for out of the box. The only shortcoming it has is I would highly recommend don't use the rubberized seat belts that are given in the box. You can pick up, I think Edward makes a set of just seat belts. If you hunt around, you'll find a suitable substitute. Just don't use the rubber ones, they were terrible. When you're installing this piece behind the cockpit bulkhead, just use one side of the fuselage to kind of get everything lined up right. Here I've already applied the paint. I'm just going in doing a black wash. I'm using the Tamiya black panel liner, worked just fine. Everything here, again, everything fit together well. Everything was very straightforward. I was very satisfied with the overall cockpit. I'm on step 3. I'm in the process of getting the fuselage halves ready for paint. Magic Factory calls out a couple of spots for you to cut notches. Left rear and the right rear. Okay, easy enough. Then they tell you drill holes if you're going to open up the engine access doors. Okay, I'm good with that. And then there's this reference to drilling 2 holes in the front right part of the fuselage, which would be those 2 holes right there. There's 2 dimples. They want you to drill 2 holes there, and you read through the directions. I read every step to the end. There is not another reference to those 2 holes. Then I look just before the end, in like step 27, you can see there's some kind of probe there in that spot where those 2 holes are, but there's no part call out anywhere in the instructions. Do you drill 2 holes and then wait to the end and see what parts you have left? If you close up the air brakes, this is the time to do it when you're installing the interior. Use the interior to make the frame a little more rugged, and then just make sure the doors sit flat. Here I'm putting in the intake ramps. They fit like a charm. Paint them ahead of time, this way you don't have to struggle later on with them. This is the nose gear bay. They give you some piping detail and stuff in there. If you paint it all up, give it a wash, it'll look good in the end. And the exhaust looked really nice. If you take your time with this and again just paint it up nice, it'll look good. I was very satisfied with that look right there. Fuselage basic assembly is done. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. I guess you can see that engine in there. I'm going to have that access door open. I only did it on this side. The cockpit I'm very happy with. It's the kit seat. Sorry, my black and yellow striping is as good as it gets. And I use the decals over the kit instrument panels and consoles here. I'm very happy with those. The seat belts are the rubberized seat belts for whatever reason Magic Factory went with. They're horrible. If you're going to build this kit and you want to display it and get past this, buy aftermarket for that, or just get a seat with molded in belts. Other than that, the fuselage went together well, except for this gap here. I filled this with CA. Not happy with these intakes. The faces of the intakes I left off. I'm painting those separately because they have the red border on them. These are two parts. There's an inner part, the molded inner part. I guess Magic Factory wanted you to see rivets on the inside. They wanted you to take that inside piece, glue it to the outside piece, and then attach them. And my concern was that they wouldn't sit well. They sit better if you do them separate. I think once this is painted, you won't see this as much. This side right here, it's a very slight ridge. Aggravated the shit out of me. I sanded the shit out of it. That was as good as I could get it. Down at the bottom, it's sitting flush. Over here, same thing. It's fairly flush there, and you don't feel it. Actually, on this side, you don't feel it, but the gap between the portion here, I had to put a little filler in. The back here, this went together really well. That sat tight. It snapped right into place. Two pieces for the exhaust, well, three. Went together well. Biggest pain in the ass is getting this cockpit and gear bay lined up with one half, getting that engine in at the same time and getting the exhaust in at the same time. Once you get it, if you can get everything together and, you know, a little organized chaos, happy days. It's not bad. All right, this is the most tedious part of assembling the wings, is just drilling all the holes out for the various pylons and doodads that are going to hang down underneath later on. Just take your time, make sure you check and double check the instructions as you drill the holes out. I used a smaller drill to get all the pilot holes in, then I used the appropriate size drill per the instructions afterwards. Like you see, I did one of these already. I figured I'd show you this is a clever bit of engineering from Magic Factory. You've got this insert for the main gear bay, and there's tabs in the back and just the curve in the front. So in the front, there's a lip that comes around. The back is the part you want to kind of line up first. Push that down into it and click the rest of that down, and then it'll sit down nice and deep. And if you look at the side here, you can see it's level. And then you've got the top of the gear bay. Make sure after you cut these off the trees, just run a sanding stick around the perimeter, just all around the edge. And then you'll see there's a tab in the back here. That tab goes inside the gear bay, like so. Hold it down, and then just push it in the rest of the way, and you're good. Chef's kiss for the way those went together. And I've already test fit the wing on top of here, because I was like, yeah, this is gonna shit up the whole process. But then you can take this right over, and once that's glued, the seam is almost invisible. Now you can see here, I'm gonna insert this panel here. It's just typical of the fit of everything on the wings was terrific. Now the wing assembly going into the fuselage, again, no problems. It all sat together well. Minimal amount of putty and used anywhere on the main wing installation. A couple of things to point out about the tail, and I really want to like this kit, and Magic Factory's finding ways that piss me off. The first issue I have in general is the plastic for this kit is on the softer side. It's not brittle, but it's not in that fine, like, medium range. It's just soft enough that when you go to do certain things, like they want you to dig out these grooves in the back. You know, you have the half and the half. You have to kind of carve out these channels inside each part. And the plastic is just soft enough to make that difficult. Can't get a nice, clean, square cut. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I'll try to line this up so you can see it. There is now, bear in mind that from here up, this is separate from this. I understand that's because you've got two different fin tops for early and late versions. This is an early one. Learn from my mistake. Glue this half to this half of the tail, and glue this half to this half of the tail. I should have did that, and I regret not doing it. Because if you look here, now what's happened, and again, this is a byproduct of this soft plastic, you can just see it here. From here up, it's curved that way. It's not a perfectly straight tail. And I've kind of painted myself into a corner. I'm gonna try to gently heat this up and straighten it out. The other issue is these portions right here are connected to the tail, and then you're supposed to kind of click the rudder in to this. Being that this plastic is so soft, it wants to just kind of bend away from this groove. Instead of going in, you go to kind of push this in, and these pieces that protrude want to kind of push away from the rudder. And I'm gonna have to like kind of carve this line in again, because it kind of just blends in with the soft plastic. On this side, you don't notice it because I pushed it in from this side, and instead of these two pieces kind of going to the center of the rudder, no, they're still kind of forced over on this side. I was gonna leave this off, paint it, and then install it, and then the more problems I had with it, I was like, let me just put it all together now, and I'm gonna paint this as a unit before I install it on the plane. Again, learn from my mistake. This probably wouldn't be so curved had I installed each piece with each side, so shame on me. Onward. If you're gonna build this kit with the nose closed, I'm gonna make a shameless plug for Matters of Scales completed nose that you just glue onto the front of the fuselage. This multi-part, nonsensically detailed nose assembly was not worth the trouble. Once you get all that in, what you see there, you still have to get the doors to fit properly. You got to get everything to sit, the tip of the nose. It's not worth the hassle. I highly recommend picking up one of John's 3D printed nose assemblies. The instrument panel combing, there's a couple of different ones. Make sure you use the right one. It fits fairly well once you get it in. Take your time. Then when you go to put the windscreen on over everything, again, just be careful. Tape it down. This is what I did, is I taped it down and then I applied some Tamiya Extra Thin along the front of it and had no issues. I was very satisfied with that. Then you've got the hump in the top of the fuselage. It went on well. It fits relatively well, but you can see that center line needed a massive amount of putty. That was my biggest issue there. Then you've got, depending on the version you're doing, if it has guns, you put those in, and they went in no problem. Chalk this one up to John doesn't read and comprehend directions well. As much as I'm going to bitch about this kit by the end, I quickly glanced at this stuff, flaps up, and I said, all right, yeah, I want the flaps up. And then spoilers open. Yeah, I want the spoilers open. And the problem is that, for me, the problem is that I kind of reversed everything. What they're calling flaps are what I assumed were going to be what they're calling the spoilers. I wanted the what they're calling flaps down and the spoilers closed. I always thought these were considered air brakes, so I cut the tabs and cut the holes in the back of the wing accordingly, but I got it backwards, like I said. These are what I thought were going to be sitting down like this. I thought those were the spoilers, and it's not. So these those are going to be up. If I do what they're calling the spoilers as open, well, yeah, the spoilers, see this, I'm confusing myself at this point. So I'm going to have that. And I don't see any pictures where that's how they would be. If I see a picture that looks like that, then I'll do it like that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to cut those tabs off and just kind of park that down like that. Do your homework, gents and ladies, if you're going to do this. If you want what I call the air brakes down, that's flaps down. If you want the upper surface flat, you want it closed. All right, let's get this wrapped up. I'm unmasking the tail. For the sake of clarity, I'm not using the kit decals. I wanted to do something different. I didn't like either of the kit included schemes. I used cutting edge decals. Here, I'm putting in the stuff that's going to be red regardless. I used Insignia red. The intakes are almost always, unless it's a camouflage plane, they're almost always red. Then I painted those insides of the leading edge slat wells with red as well. Everything here went together well. Again, overall, most of the stuff on this kit goes together well. My big takeaway is I just don't like the level of detail in some places. This obsession with the multi-part nose, etc. But the leading edge slats went together fairly well. The landing gear goes together robustly. I was very happy with that. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. So here you see the main landing gear went in like a dream. It slots in. There's only one way for it to go. Then you put in these support legs, these struts. The struts went in well. Everything locates well. This was one and done on this stuff. I was very, very happy with that. The nose gear, that took a little bit more play, but once it slots in, again, it's robust. Alright, this is not a shameless plug for AK because they are not a sponsor of the channel. Mark over at Hobbynut Models sent me a few of these AK paint pens to try out. I thought for sure they'd be another AK gimmick, and I gotta say I was very surprised at them. They function well. All this painting I'm doing, this is a first coat over raw plastic, and it worked like a charm. I also used their metallics. This is the gunmetal. I used it on the cannons, and again, it worked like a charm. I let this dry for half an hour, came back and did a second coat. You wouldn't know that I used paint pens. I'm also using them here on the edges of the gear doors. Same thing, 2 coats, and they look terrific. If you're interested in them, go over to Hobbynut Models. Mark has a full range of these, and I can't recommend them enough. Here I'm using them for the fuses on the bombs. The kit provided triple eject racks are good with a little bit of work. The ordnance fits onto the triple eject racks using 2 pegs. There's holes in the triple eject rack. You install some anti-sway braces on the rack. The bombs will sit right down on it. Same with the centerline tank. You install the pylon on the plane along with the anti-sway braces. There's 2 pegs on the fuel tank. It slides into the pylon and sits lined upright in the anti-sway braces. The gear doors also fit really well, easy to locate. The triple eject racks go onto the pylons, which I installed on the wings. Again, everything fit well. I had no issues here at all. That door goes on easily as well, as does the refueling probe. Well, there you go. We'll take a quick look at it. I'll show you some close-ups of the plane. I'm happy with the way it came out, aside from my own decal issues, which have nothing to do with the kit. We'll run through some of the pluses and minuses. To start with, what was good about it? The overall fit and finish of the kit was good. Most of the parts fit together well. The wing assembly was terrific. The wheel bays and the gear doors, all that stuff went together well. The intakes assembled and slotted in with no drama, no fit issues. The refueling probe went on. I really thought the refueling probe at the end was going to be that last little FU to really like annoy me, and it wasn't. It slots in with a very positive fit. I was very happy with that. Even the canopy, the open canopy came with, there's 2 separate parts for the canopy if you're doing it closed and if you're doing it open. And the piece for the open canopy, it sets the canopy at the correct angle, and it went in and it took, and it looks good. I'm happy with it. I'm very impressed with the insert for the canopy, speaking of which, with the 3 mirrors, and Magic Factory even gives it a little reflective material that's self-adhesive, sticks to those mirrors. Looks great. And again, it wasn't a hassle to put together. The ordnance attached to the pylons and to the triple eject racks with no problems. There's 2 pegs on each bomb, 2 pegs on the fuel tanks, and there's corresponding holes in all the pylons for the wings and the centerline. Once you install the pylons on the plane, then you install the anti-sway braces on each one, and that helps to keep each item, whether it be the fuel tank, the rocket pods, or the bombs, aligned properly and sitting at the correct distance from the pylon. They look great. I'm impressed with them. The landing gear went on, very positive locating slots. They went right in. It didn't take me 10 minutes of, gee, where does this go and why isn't this going in? It all went together well. Again, I'm pleasantly surprised by the way things went together. The bad stuff is going to be that big hump on top. you would think that they should have just 3D printed that hump as one piece. Again, I'm not an aircraft manufacturer, so that's not my purview, but it just seems to me that the way it went together, I wound up with the two halves of the hump kind of dipped in on each other, and I had to fill that entire seam with CA, sand it back, kind of smooth out a lot of that and rescribe. It was a pain in the ass. Considering the rest of the kit goes together so well, I was a little surprised by that. So that was bad. The other thing that I would say was bad was the way that the tail goes together. I went into a bit of detail in the video about it. The way that I understand that they're making a tail to accommodate early and late model M's. The problem became that top half, the way the top half and the bottom half of each side came together, it wound up kind of being canted to one side. And I wound up coming back. I took a hair dryer, I heated the shit out of the tail, and I flattened it back out. I can't imagine there wasn't a better way to do that. Considering Magic Factory's found ways to put together some of the assemblies flawlessly, I just found that tail assembly was troublesome. And the other major bad issue with this kit is the directions. The directions are terrible in places. As I mentioned, they're telling you to drill holes for something in the nose. There's no other mention of it all the way through. The only mention I found of it was a picture at the end of the instructions showing like an angle attack probe or a speed thing, something sticking out of that area of the nose. I guessed at what belonged there, and I went with that. I also had the issue, what I considered air brakes, they had other names for, and I did everything in reverse from what I wanted to do. I wanted the air brakes open so you could see like the little tail numbers on the inside of the air brakes and to break up the gray look of the plane. That wasn't meant to be. So all my control surfaces are neutral on the wings. Oh, how could I possibly forget the nose? To me, I think this obsession with, it's great being able to build it with the nose open, with the radar showing and the electronics and everything if you're so inclined. But for the amount of plastic that's in this kit, would it have really cost that much more to include an assembled nose where you could go and say, you know what, I don't want that. Just glue two halves together and have a positive locating surface. To me, the locating areas to attach the nose assembly to the fuselage were non-existent. And it was more trouble than it needed to be. Like I said in the video, shameless plug for John over at Matters of Scale. Pick up the one-piece nose that's 3D printed, fits like a charm. Use that instead. I wish I had had that before I had assembled mine. I would have most certainly used it. So that whole nose thing, model companies, please just stop with this shit. It would have, if you're opening all those doors up and the nose is hinged open, then that makes sense and everything goes where it needs to go. But when you close it up and now you got to close all these doorways up on the sides of the nose, what a pain in the dick. Nothing wanted to go together well. And it became a focus of my anger with this kit. So I'll leave that that was the last bad thing. The only things I would recommend, get aftermarket seat belts for the ejection seat. Get yourself a set of aftermarket wheels unless you're fascinated with the rubber tires. John over at Matters of Scale just happened to make a set of resin wheels, which I did use on this kit. I got those before I finished the kit. I used them and they look terrific. So that and the nose. Get yourself the nose and the wheels from John, and you're good to go with this kit. You'll sit back and say, wow, this is a terrific kit to assemble. And I mean, unless you're fascinated with the markings that come with it, find yourself a better set of decals. The two that come in the kit, they're striking, but you know, everybody, how many people are going to build this black and white A4? Like, yeah. Anyway, that being said, would I buy the kit again? If I wanted to do a detailed one, yeah, I probably would. I wouldn't say don't buy this kit. It's a good kit. If you want an A4M with a good bit of detail, with some nice, well-fitting parts, lots of options for how you can display it, run with it. You get FOD covers, you get a boarding ladder, you get different kinds of armament, different fuel tanks. The fuel tanks you can build either as wing tanks or as a centerline tank, as I did. They give you all the parts to do either or. There's triple eject racks included, multiple eject racks included, 2 different kinds of bombs. You get the Zuni rockets as well. Yeah, recommended. With reservations regarding the nose and the seat belts and the wheels. So aside from that, it's a good kit. Thank you again to Mark for providing our test build. And thanks for stopping in. I appreciate your time. If you're not subscribed, I hope I've earned your subscription by this point. Just hit the subscribe button. Be a sport, okay? So thanks for stopping in. And I'll see you guys for the next build. Take care. Stay well, and I'll see you next time.